Massive theatre company is celebrating 35 years. It's the third largest theatre company in the country and the largest one in Auckland, Tamaki Makaurau. It's opening a new show this coming week, Homemade, at Te Po Theatre. Founder Sam Scott is with me now. Kia ora, Sam.
Kia ora.
Great to have you on the program. Welcome to Culture 101.
Thank you for inviting me.
Now, 35 years of Massive, huge deal. But this week, not great news. Your funding from CNZ over the next 3 years has significantly dropped, and it's a lot less than you were expecting.
That's correct.
Tell me what's happened.
Yes, well, we were very disappointed to learn that our funding has been cut by 60% from what we've usually received over the last 4 to 5 years. We had seen this opportunity as with the new funding structure to apply for some more money because we're looking at successional planning and all sorts of things. And so we never in our wildest kind of dreams thought that we were going to go from, so what we've been funding has been 230K over the last 4 years, and they have offered us 95K a year for the next 3 years. We just never, ever imagined that this would happen to this extent, to this amount in terms of what we do, how we do it, and that we're the third oldest company in New Zealand, theatre company, and we're the oldest company in Tamaki Makaurau. So, yes, it's been absolutely and utterly shocking for us all.
What does that mean in practice? What does that look like for your company then for the next 3 years?
We're still not sure. It's very early days for us to be thinking, obviously we have started to think about what it means. The funding climate at the moment generally is because of world events and what's happening in this country and to some extent how the arts are valued or perhaps not valued, then we have to think sort of strategically long term. We have to be really realistic, but we aren't in a position right now to say what that will mean. We will have to spend a significant amount of time rethinking who we are in conversation with our company. We don't want that just to be us. We want to talk with because we're a multi-generational company, so we want to involve, members across the board to talk with us about that. And there are several ways we could kind of go, but we certainly won't at this point. We're going to have to reduce, or we're going to, there's a lot of things we may have to do in the immediate future while still keeping our kaupapa true and sticking to that as much as we can. But yeah, we're still very much in a process of absorbing this, considering this, and then there will have to be a lot of discussion.
Some companies have received nothing.
Yep.
Some other companies are probably going to have to think about whether they can continue because of the news. In the Amplify strategy that the government put out, there was a real push towards philanthropy, to private funding.
Yeah.
Is that where Massive would have to go? Can you go down that road? Would you have to expand that?
Well, we definitely have to expand that if we can. I mean, to be honest, philanthropy in this country has always been quite hard. And although we have had some, several generous donors, we've never had a prolific amount of that, actually, which has always surprised me, considering what we do, how much we do for, free to our participants, how much we support development, exploration, how we provide platforms for many, many of the artists that are now flourishing, both within Aotearoa as well as internationally. So I'm hoping that when potential or philanthropists hear about this, they will step up. Not just for us, but I can't guarantee that because to date, it's not like some other countries where philanthropy is expected and part of people who are wealthy to do. It isn't to date in Aotearoa been something that has been particularly prolific. That's why we're going to have to really have some big thinking around how we are, how we look, while still going forward with a fighting spirit, definitely, and wanting our company to thrive and wanting to keep doing the crucial things that we do. Because we do way more than just performing plays. You know, we develop people, particularly rangatahi, and for free. Everything we do for rangatahi essentially is for free. And often for others as well, our older members. You know, we have things like the Directors Lab, we have other teaching artists that we train, and it's all for free. And that's always been such an important part of our kaupapa, is to allow access to those who, you know, may not either be able to afford that or didn't think theatre was for them. So we often attract a lot of people who, you know, might have been involved in sports and things, but didn't know what theatre could be, because we're physical, because we use personal stories, experiences and perspectives at the heart of our work, and find enormous benefit in that, whether they go on to be artists or not, but in terms of building them as kind of wonderful human beings.
What made you want to start a theatre company in the first place?
Essentially, I'd been working up at a company called Northland Youth Theatre up in Whangarei as a director, assistant director for 5 years. And someone said to me, at the current time, the director of the Maidment Arts Centre, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore, said...
That was at Auckland University.
Yes. Yeah. Was saying, why do you go up there? Why don't you start something like that here? And so I kind of didn't have an answer to that except to say, okay. I also, at the base of it, which has never changed, is I have always believed, particularly that with rangatahi, with emerging artists, that I want them to have the most excellent surroundings. I don't want it to be a sort of backstagey kind of thing that gets done somewhere when other stuff might not be happening. I wanted to put young people front and foremost, working with excellent practitioners, making excellent theatre, working those people to their edges so that they could be, you know, could see how excellent they could be. Because often I had seen young people's theatre and thought, it's not as good as it should be. You know, I don't think they've been provided with an environment or a kaupapa that is really... And I went through a youth theatre. I grew up in a youth theatre and I wanted to be... pushed to my edges. You know, I wanted to work as hard as I could. I didn't want to be mediocre. You know, I wanted to be excellent. Not perfect. We really make a difference between those two things, but work to be excellent. And I also wanted to work with personal stories. I really wanted us to tell our stories from Aotearoa, and I really wanted to develop and think about style and form of theatre. So, yeah, essentially that's why we started.
Yeah, tell me about the physical theatre, because it's all about working as an ensemble, it's devising. What is it about that style that you love so much, and why that for the rangatahi?
Yeah, well, we only make new work, so whether we're devising or we're commissioning someone to write for us, because, again, I wanted to contribute new work into our environment, into the ecosystem of Aotearoa and further afield. In terms of the physicality, that developed. We were working with physicality from the beginning, but it kind of developed further and further as we went in. And I was working a lot with Carla Martel, who was a choreographer but also a theatre maker. And we'd worked in those traditional roles of her being a choreographer, me being a director. And then we sort of, after many conversations, we were like, we love physicality. You know, we were really inspired by companies like DV8 and Complicité overseas. And we loved it as a way of storytelling. You know, we loved that the physicality allows you to speak often more poetically. And the way we work essentially is that whatever we do, the cast is making the work. So the physicality, for example, isn't imposed on them. We don't choreograph on them. We've created a whole lot of processes where they create the physical work, and then we work with them to create what's in a show. And so we're always going, what's the best way to tell this story? Is it verbally? Is it physically? Is it both together? And And we want to have those options, and we want to be able to walk into the unknown and make it known, generally within our devising work. And it allows a huge freedom with anyone that's devising to contribute enormously to the content and to the work. And that's what we want. We're an ensemble collaborative theatre company, and it's reflected right through everything. Our workshops, everything connects to everything.
Yeah.
And our pathways lead to, obvious conclusions, if you like.
Yeah. What do you see the students get out of that style of theatre? What do you see them getting out of Massive? Because a lot of them do go on to be teaching artists.
I guess ownership, a belief in themselves as being storytellers, that somebody else doesn't, yes, other scripted works are wonderful and things, but that they actually have interesting lives and we want to know about those, that there's lots of, in their specificness, there's a wonderful universal appreciation, that they are, no matter what they go on to do, whether they become performing artists or don't, that they are wonderful in themselves and in their particularness, especially I think in these times, obviously with social media and the pressure of all of that, and sometimes to be the same as others, we're valuing their specificness, and we want to see that. Like we have a saying which is, we want you to be seen, deeply seen, and so it's about building them, not just their confidence, but their belief in their value as human beings, first and foremost, and who they are, how they are, what makes them up, how they think, how they see the world. So I think it's that as well. And just to note things like the physicality, I think, like Beulah Kawale, for example.
One of your alumni?
Yeah. I mean, when he first came to us, he thought theatre was one thing. He thought it was sort of, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think I've heard him say he thought it was kind of Shakespeare and people and he was a rugby league player and things. And when he came to our workshops and worked out that he could be really physical and it could be his physicality and that he could tell his own stories and his own perspectives, I think, that changed it enormously for him about what he thought about theatre. And then he continued, and as we know, is an international and national, wonder.
Yeah. We had him on Culture 101 recently, and, people can go listen to the interview online, but he does talk about that moment he realised this could be for him, and he's doing incredibly well.
Yeah.
You also studied with Master Philippe Gaulier?
Yeah, several times, and created a kind of unexpected and wonderful friendship with him.
Yeah.
He has influenced my work enormously, beyond measure, really, in terms of particularly around his ideas about how performers are on stage, the quality of their performance, how they connect to each other, to the audience, what he calls, le jeu, the game that actors play in terms of performing, sort of what is at the heart of the work. Complicité is all about the connection and between yourself and other actors and also yourself and the audience. And people have often seen our work and they don't know what it is, but they know there's something different there, which I think is very much rooted in those qualities.
Yeah.
So Gaulier used to talk about the actor and the character walk hand in hand. And it is pretend. It's wonderful pretending. And, what does that bring to the work?
And speaking of directing, you also directed on Shortland Street for 10 years.
Yeah, I did.
In the late 90s to the early 2000s. Did you ever think about staying on that side of the business and screen?
Yeah, well, I made a short film during that time and I was offered work in other television. But I was very wedded to Massive still. For me, theatre just has always been my big pull, and although I really enjoyed, Shortland Street allowed me so many things, when I was asked to kind of think about other things, it would have probably meant me compromising how I would work with Massive or possibly not work with Massive for periods of time. And I just didn't want to do that. You know, theatre is my love for lots and lots of reasons. And I just didn't want to give that up.
Well, 3.5 decades.
Such a long time.
35 years. What have been the big lessons for you?
I think one of the reasons where we've been successful is, one, our kaupapa is very strong and we live it, and it's spoken about actively in everything we do. So if you come to a foundation workshop when you're young, or you come to a rehearsal, we're speaking the same language and we're talking about the same thing. So we're very united in that way. I also think our company has responded to what people need. So the fact that we train teaching artists is because people asked for that in the company. The fact that we've got the Directors Lab is because people asked for that. You know, there's a lot of aspects of the company that have come from the company that we've then actioned. So we're responding to that. I always wanted the company to be relevant, and I never wanted it, I wanted it to sort of stay alive and keep exploring and be curious forever, And so I think that's one of the reasons, or many reasons, why we've continued and are successful. I think in terms of what's been hard is, the funding has always been hard. Always, right from the beginning. There's never been a time where we can sit back and relax, And we've had other challenges, never as big as this one currently. But that's been a really ongoing thing that takes up a lot of time, particularly by our general manager.
Yeah.
And the other thing actually that's been really challenging, which has always bemused me a bit, is how many people don't know about us, who come to our shows or come and go, how come I don't know about Massive? Why haven't I known about Massive? And I think it's because we often fly under the radar. We don't do, a big producing program, 4 or 5 shows a year, because we just can't sustain that. So I think, people don't know about us because of that, along with other things. But when they find out about us, they absolutely love us and adore us.
And tell me about this show that's going to be opening this coming week, Homemade.
Yeah.
It's opening at Te Pou Theatre.
It's a beautiful show directed by Denise Sewer, and who's been a long-time member of Massive, and Harmony, who's the assistant director also. And oh my gosh, I was saying to someone the other day, it's the perfect show to celebrate 35 years. It really is. It looks like Massive. It is Massive. It's full of heart. It's full of meaning. The cast are just exceptional. They work together as the most wonderful ensemble. They've been working so hard, and the excellence in their work is just profound. I just hope as many people can see it and then see who Massive is, because you really will see who Massive is through this show.
Well, it's Homemade, which is opening at Te Pou Theatre this coming week. Well, tough time in the industry and tough times ahead, Sam, but congratulations on 35 years.
Thank you.
And thank you for chatting to me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Massive Theatre founder Sam Scott, and Homemade is at Te Pou Theatre from the 22nd to the 25th of July before heading to 161 Theatre in Whangarei for the 29th to the 31st of July.